have a good day.
Have a good day. Say happy what? Say happy what?
Go.
Bye, everybody. Right here. Bye, everybody.
Go. Okay. I know it's been a couple of weeks since they have said hi, so I wanted to put them on today. Hope you all are having a good afternoon. And this afternoon, I want to talk about how we can all be worthy women in the church. And not only just worthy women, but worthy working women, like inside the church. What we can do for the church, with the church, at the church. A lot of people have the understanding that there is nothing a woman can do in the Lord's church. This viewpoint has been created based upon the biblical teachings of women not to be leading the services, such as leading prayers, preaching, etc. Some have taken this idea and think that women do not have a role in the church. However, that is simply not true. And I want to talk about a few things in this devotional that women can do in the church. Every church has some women who are content just occupying the pew, and this could go on for decades. But there are also, in every church, some women who are involved and support every good work that comes their way. During this devotional, I want you to think about which woman describes you. Are you content just coming to church? Or are you a woman who wants to be a part of the church and be involved in the works of the church? I really do believe that a worthy woman is one who is an active worker in the Lord's church. When I was doing this devotional, I couldn't help but think of a story that I've heard for several years. And maybe you know it too. And I think it is so fitting. It goes like this. Whose job is it anyway? This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did that anybody could have. The story may be confusing, but the message is clear. No one took responsibility, so nothing got done. And how often is that true today, that I think Matt's going to do something, Matt thinks I'm going to do it, when we both were capable of doing it, but either we're waiting on the other person, or we just assume somebody else would have done it, and if we would have just done it ourselves, more than likely it would have been done faster, it would have been done right. But how often is it that, oh, so-and-so will take care of it. So-and-so will do it. I don't have to do it. I could do it. I have the talent to do it. I have the ability to do it. But so-and-so is much better at it than me, or so-and-so always takes care of that. And then it comes to something being done, and it's not done. So, as I'm talking about women working in the church, I want you to think how true that little story is of somebody, nobody, everybody, anybody. If I expect everyone else to do something but me, it may never get done. So today we're going to talk about some women who are workers in the church and that are an example to us today. You should recognize the first one because we have talked about her in previous devotionals, and her name is Priscilla. Priscilla is mentioned 3 times in the ESV in the New Testament. In Acts 18 verse 2, it says, "And he found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, recently from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome, and he went to see them." Again, in Acts 18 verses 18, after this, Paul stayed many days longer, and then took leave of the brothers and set sail for Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila. At Century he had cut his hair, for he was under a vow. And lastly, in Acts 18 verses 26, he began to speak boldly in the synagogue. But when Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately. We see in these verses that Priscilla is the wife of Aquila, and she traveled with Paul, and that when Apollos was teaching falsely, she went with her husband and taught him correctly. We see here that she was a teacher. She studied, she knew the word, she was able to teach the word, and she was eager to tell others about it. She worked very closely with her husband Aquila in teaching people the truth. Can we be like Priscilla? Can we be a teacher? Have we ever taught? Are we willing to teach? As in every church, we have, I won't say trouble finding teachers, but it seems like the same teachers teach all the time, and some of it is because of new people being scared. A lot of people out of their comfort zone, and I'll be the first one to tell you it's hard to teach. It's not an easy role. You have to be prepared. You can't just go in and sit there and say, okay, we're here today, and it just kind of all falls into your lap. It takes some preparation, and sometimes kids are in a good mood, sometimes kids are in a bad mood, and sometimes I love the days when we walk in and you expect your 4 kids and it doubles. You have 8. Visitors decide to come that day, and you want to see me get nervous. Let me be prepared for 4 and 8 to jump in. Not a bad thing. Not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just not good at over preparing. I prepare for what I'm used to, and it does kind of throw me for a loop. So you want to see me squirm? You want to see me get a little anxious? Put more kids in my class that I'm not expecting, or put me in the teenage class. I'll just go on and say it. Teenagers are not my comfort zone. I will do from babies on up, but you hit that teenage level and I struggle. Am I willing to do it? Absolutely. Have I done it? Yes. Is it my strong point? No. But my point in saying that is, what's holding you back from being a teacher? And you say, okay, Paula, I'm too old. I can't teach. I've done my time. I've heard all that. I've taught for 30 years, so I'm done. My kids are grown and moved out. They're on their own. They attend another church, so my duty's done. Well, I'll put you on the spot. What about my kids? Do my kids not deserve a good, faithful, strong teacher like your kids had growing up? And I think everybody has a role to teach, and whether we know it or not, we teach. But I don't want to talk about teaching the church. How about we teach in our home? Are we teaching our kids? And again, it's different for me than it is for most of you all watching, because most of you all have kids, grandkids that don't live with you, that have moved out, that are grown. But did you teach them growing up? Did you ever talk Bible stories with them? Did you ever read the Bible with them? Did you ever talk church about them? Those are teaching moments. You were a teacher at that time. It may not be your Bible class teacher where you come in every Sunday and you sit in a classroom, but you were teaching your kids. And that, to me, is very important. So you can be a teacher in the home as well as a Sunday school teacher, or vice versa. If you're not comfortable, I'm a whole lot more comfortable with my kids than if, like I said, you put me in the teenage class. I can teach my kids all day long. You put me in the teenage class and I will be stumbling all over myself. It's not my comfort zone. But am I doing my responsibility at home of teaching my family, teaching my neighbors, teaching the people who come into my household? Am I doing that? Are we willing to teach others one-on-one, like we just talked about, in our home, in a Bible study, like Priscilla did, our friends? Our friends that come over for coffee or tea or cake or cookies or whatever you all do. Are we willing to teach them if the opportunity comes up? Are we willing to be like Priscilla and teach people like they did Apollos? Even though Apollos was wrong, I don't think he was intentionally doing it wrong. He just didn't know. But are you willing to correct somebody when they are wrong in a loving way, not a harsh way? Are we setting that example like Priscilla by reading our Bible and knowing the truth and telling others? The next lady I want to talk about is Phoebe. We don't know much about her, but in Romans 16 verse 1, Paul tells us, I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of the church at Century, and I know I pronounced that wrong, that you may welcome her in the Lord in a way worthy of the saints, and help her in whatever she may need from you, for she has been a patron of many and of myself as well. We see here that Phoebe was a servant of the church as she helped Paul and many others. Do we help with what is going on in our home congregation? There are several opportunities for women to be involved. Are you? Have you been? Will you be? And I'm going to use Fulton as an example. I know there are several people watching this that don't go to Fulton. that attend other congregations, and I know some of them watching are from my hometown, Kentucky. And again, I think this point serves well for you as well. So if you don't go to Fulton, think about your home church. But for examples, I'm going to use Fulton. And at Fulton, the ladies have more opportunities than I have time to mention to serve, to help, to be involved in the Lord's church. What about cooking a meal for someone who's sick? Several of you all do that. Several of us do that. What about cooking a meal, taking someone food, ordering them a meal when a loved one has gone? When someone has passed away? How many of you all are on that committee, if you will, that will help serve, will cook a meal for someone who in that time of mourning and grief? What about being on the card groups? And I know this is kind of, I think, went by the wayside right now because of all the COVID stuff, but several of you all have picked up sending cards, and I appreciate that. But at one point in time at Fulton, we had card groups, and you were assigned by month cards, and you could send cards for various reasons. You sent cards to visitors, you sent cards to shut-ins, you sent birthday cards. I don't really know because I wasn't there when this was going on. It quickly, this COVID stuff hit, actually right when I signed up to be in a group. So, but you all at Fulton know, whatever card group you were in, you all have known that you've done that for years. Could you do that? That's a part of being a work of the church, a good work of the church. What about visiting, calling the shut-ins? Several of y'all are good at that. Or better yet, texting, Facebooking, whatever the other one is. I don't know. But any type of social media. Do you all do that? I know several of you all that do. That's something of being a good work. What about when y'all got to think back, when we had the good old days, when we had the fellowship meals? And hopefully soon we'll get back to those. Hopefully all this COVID stuff will break soon. We're like, okay, Paula, how can a woman be involved? Well, who do you see setting up the food? Who do you see taking up the food? Who cleans all the dishes? Who gets all the dishes prepared, lids on, cleans up the tables? It's women. Now, we do have some men that do it, and that's great. But again, this is another opportunity that a woman could do. Women take the food out of the refrigerator and get it ready. The women are putting food in the warmer, taking them out, taking lids off, getting the stuff organized, making sure there's plates out, and silverware, and napkins, and drinks. Again, is that something you could be doing? What about decorating for our activities? We have all kinds of activities, whether it be the children's activities, the Valentine's dinner, the New Year's Eve game night, the trunk or treat, the cookies with Santa, whatever we do, Easter egg hunt, or just a kids' night, game night, whatever. Could you help set that up? Could you help take it down? Could you help with decorating? If, say this, most likely the supplies are supplied or provided, you wouldn't have to go out and get anything. Could you show up and take 30 minutes out of your time and help set it up? Or come in, we always have a cutoff time. Could you come in for maybe 10 minutes and help us take it down? And I give you a little hint, taking it down is always a little bit easier than setting it up. It takes less than half the time, I promise. But is that something you all could do? Again, people don't think about that being workers in the church, and it bothers me when women say, well, there's nothing I can do in the church. And like I said, there is a long list of things that women can do in the church. No, we can't get up there and deliver the sermon. No, we can't get up there and read scripture. No, we can't lead a prayer. No, we can't provide over the Lord's Supper. But I just gave you a list of 5 or 6 things, and I could go on. My list could be 5 pages long of things women can do. And, okay, oh, Paul, I don't like being in the spotlight. Okay, a lot of these things can be done, and nobody would ever have to know you did them. Like calling somebody or sending a card. You all don't know who I send cards to unless you actually get one. Same thing with me. I have no clue who you're talking to. I have no clue who you might send a card to, or who you might stop by and deliver a dessert to, or order a meal for one day. Lots of things we can do. And Are we doing those? As a worker of the church, as a woman of the church, there are lots of things we can do. And I want to see, and at the very end of that verse in Romans 16:1, the way that Paul ended that, for she, meaning Phoebe, has been a patron of many. Wouldn't we like that? When we die, wouldn't that be a fitting title for us? She was a patron of many. She helped many. That would be just a wonderful thing for someone to say about me is, whoa, Paula was always helping. Paula was always doing something. And for the church or for somebody or whatever, for her family, for somebody. We need to strive to be like Phoebe. And I want to close with a poem. And I forgot my books. I need to go across the room and get it real quick. But we are going to end this devotional with a poem. Okay, sorry about that. This poem is called Get Somebody Else. The Lord had a job for me, but I had so much to do. I said, get somebody else, or wait till I get through. I don't know how the Lord came out, but he seemed to get along. But I felt kind of sneaking, like I knew I'd done God wrong. One day I needed the Lord, needed him right away. But he never answered me at all, and I could hear him say, down in my accusing heart, I'm sorry, I've got too much to do. You get somebody else, or wait till I get through. Now when the Lord has a job for me, I never try to shirk. I drop whatever I have on hand and do the good Lord's work. And my affairs can run along or wait till I get through. Nobody else can do the work that God marked out for you. And that was by Paul Lawrence Dunbar. And I thought, how fitting is that? How fitting, just like the poem or the story we started out with, the anybody, nobody, somebody, everybody. How fitting is this? How many times that God asks us to do something, not like comes down and asks us, but he sets something in front of us. He wants us to do something and we say, not right now, God, not right now. I don't have time for that. This is not the right day, not the right time. I got too much going on. But when something happens to me, how many times do I go, God, I need you right now, right now. And I expect him to be right there and fix things right then. But yet we don't do the same to him. How fitting is that poem? Does that poem describe your life? That we want somebody else to do it, or we want God there when we need him, but when we don't need him, he can go do whatever. How fitting is that? And in closing, are we willing to be a Priscilla and teach others about God? Are we like Phoebe and being involved in church work? Can we call ourselves worthy working women of the Lord's church? And I hope you can, and I appreciate you all listening, and I will see you all next week. Hope you have a great week.